From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I'm Carla Gonzalez, and this is From the South. The Permanent Council of the Organization of American States has approved a resolution on Venezuela amidst scenes of confusion and strong objections from several member states. The session, presided over by the United States, voted by 18-9 in favor of recognizing the representative of the opposition figure Juan Guaidó as Venezuela's permanent envoy to the OAS. Mexico called it a Pyrrhic victory and challenged the right of the Permanent Council to take such a decision.
The adoption of this resolution is a Pyrrhic victory for a certain group of countries, which will have no impact on the real situation, but could cause serious consequences for the OAS itself and its institutions. Among these is the following. This resolution adopted is contrary to this organization rules and to normal multilateral practice. Is the Permanent Council the appropriate body? Are 18 votes a sufficient threshold? There is a real risk of paralysis in the organization, with a real risk of a permanent questioning of this or that representative.
Uruguay, Bolivia, Antigua and Barbuda, and Nicaragua also said the vote violated the OAS rules and put the future of the organization in danger.
The Republic of Uruguay believes that the procedures used to adopt this resolution are not in line with the norms of this Organization of American States. It considers that this Permanent Council does not have the power to make this sort of decision, and therefore it does not recognize its legal validity and will not be bound by its content.
We would like to say that the present disastrous course of a simple majority prevailing over all other matters of major significance in this organization should end in the interests of the organization and in the interests of our hemisphere. We, for our part, will continue to keep the door open for reasoned and reasonable dialogue with all member states on all issues that beset our hemisphere, in the hope that we can very quickly return this organization to consensus in decision-making.
The decision taken by the OAS also generated a reaction in Cuba. On his Twitter account, the Cuban Foreign Minister, Bruno Rodriguez, rejected the decision. He said that there was an irrational violation of procedures at the discredited OAS after accepting, through a decision imposed by the United States, an alleged representative of a member state that didn't ask for it and had requested to leave the organization. He added that it is unacceptable interference in internal affairs of Venezuela. And Venezuela has condemned the resolution passed by the OAS. The Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza posted an official communique which denounces the flagrant violation of international law by a group of U.S. satellite states when they recognize the political puppet nominated by Donald Trump. It says that Venezuela will not recognize any decisions taken by the OAS with the participation of such an spurious emissary. The President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, met with an international Red Cross delegation in Caracas in an official visit on Tuesday evening. In the meeting at the Miraflores Palace, the Venezuelan government showed its willingness to establish cooperation mechanisms for assistance and international support that respects the law. The Red Cross delegation shared its evaluation of the situation in Venezuela, underlining its availability to help construct the dialogue, which was promoted by the government. The UN Refugee Agency moved more than 100 refugees from the Ain Sara detention center in South Tripoli on Tuesday to a safe zone as fighting for Libya's capital intensifies. There had been heavy clashes near the Ain Sara center in recent days. Libya has become the main conduit for African migrants and refugees trying to reach Europe, with many detained in horrendous conditions to prevent them from doing so. According to the UN, thousands of refugees and migrants are trapped in detention centers in conflict areas.
We are in Tripoli today, where we have relocated more than 150 vulnerable refugees from Ain detention center, where the clashes were happening, to UNHCR's gathering and departure facility in Tripoli. We continue to call for the safety and protection of all refugees who are in detention centers, and today it's a sign that when everyone works together, we can make it happen and have these refugees who are finally safe here at the gathering and departure facility.
Meanwhile, thousands of residents have been forced to flee their homes as Commander Khalifa Haftar's forces and troops loyal to the government in Tripoli fought on the outskirts of Libya's capital on Wednesday. The Libyan National Army forces of Commander Haftar had taken up positions in the suburbs about 11 kilometers south of the center, and Haftar's forces briefly took the city's international airport but were taken out. The WikiLeaks editor-in-chief has accused the Ecuadorian government of spying on its founder Julian Assange, who has been holed up in the country's London embassy since 2012. The latest allegations were made in a press conference, although the WikiLeaks team did not provide any evidence of spying.
The new and unexpected thing that just came into light in the last few days is that WikiLeaks uncovered an extensive spying operation against Julian Assange within the Ecuadorian embassy. It entails a total invasion of privacy of Mr. Assange, and what we have established is that security cameras were used to monitor his every move, his every meeting with visitors, and it included video recordings, photographs, and audio recordings from various recorders inside the embassy. And the Moreno government in Ecuador has been all too willing to help out by pushing Julian Assange out of the embassy. This attempt to have this done has been escalating in the last few weeks and even days. And even last week we heard that it was from very reliable sources on Friday that it was imminent that he would be evicted from the embassy and arrested.
With 97% of the votes counted in the Israeli legislative elections, current right-wing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has a clear path to forming another government. Netanyahu's Likud party is tied with challenger Benny Gantz's Blue and White Party, with 35 seats each in the Knesset. However, Netanyahu is set to align with a far-right-wing nationalist bloc in the parliament. Doing so would ensure the current PM a majority, meaning he is set for a record 5th term in office. And the election was seen as a referendum on Netanyahu's leadership, and the results couldn't have been better for the reactionary Israeli PM. Netanyahu is expected to be charged with corruption later this year, but it appears he will serve as prime minister despite being indicted. The technically enfranchised Arab voters in Israel recorded a lower turnout than in 2015 as they protested racist Israeli policies on Palestine through a boycott. Those Palestinian voters who did not participate in the election were surveilled by supporters of Netanyahu's right-wing Likud party as Israel's nationalist activists attempted to impede the Palestinians' democratic rights. And despite a pretext of democracy in Israel, almost 5 million Palestinians in the occupied West Bank and Gaza, the Gaza Strip, are not allowed to vote in Israeli elections, even though they define the living conditions in Palestine. Palestinians face constant oppression and displacement as increasingly right-wing Israeli policies deny them their basic rights.
It was obvious from the beginning. Netanyahu's campaign was strong because it was about the Palestinian blood, the settlement expanding, and the sanctions on the Palestinians. It was obvious.
We have more stories coming up. We'll be back.
了保持身体健康，我冥想。
Para mantenerme saludable, yo corro.
To keep myself healthy, I study.
Για να διατηρηθώ υγιής, τρέφομαι σωστά.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo bailo.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo purifico mi espíritu a través del cuerpo. ¿Y tú?
Get your body. Tuesdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. In Argentina, the grandmothers of Plaza de Mayo have located the 129th grandchild kidnapped and illegally given up for adoption during the dictatorship. The granddaughter lives in Spain, but was found thanks to the genetic testing of samples provided by her biological father and brothers. The grandmothers of Plaza de Mayo have been fighting since 1977 to locate the children of their daughters who were detained and disappeared during the dictatorship.
We don't know her. We haven't met her, and she has only talked to our lawyers and to the members of the National Commission for the Right to Identity on their phone. We are very worried about her reaction, but I truly believe that they will be able to hug and be very happy to be able to meet each other. She will slowly get to know her family, her brothers, and the people who look for her.
Our correspondent Edgardo Esteban was at that meeting and has more.
People are waiting excitedly here at the headquarters of the grandmothers of the Plaza de Mayo, where it was announced at a press conference that the grandchild number 129 has been found. The parents and brothers of the woman are expected to arrive here. The woman herself is currently living in Spain, and this news has brought tremendous joy to her whole family. They've been fighting for her return for 43 years, a fight for justice and truth.
Edgardo Esteban from Argentina. And after the announcement, the father of this found granddaughter was visibly moved.
I've been asking for my daughter to turn around for more than 40 years, on every birthday. In all such time, it appeared in my mind many, many times, especially during the nights whilst I endured insomnia.
Researchers in Uruguay have developed a software to help recover documents from the dictatorship. Victims and family members of those disappeared helped in the process.
The search for truth never ends. Researchers and professors working at the Universidad de la República in Uruguay have created a software to recover archives from the dictatorship. These documents are unreadable, but this program can help with its transcription.
Y hay un programa que se llama Luisa, que es el que estamos presentando hoy.
The software is called Luisa. With its help, we can rescue documents that are damaged and cannot be read. The program allows everyone to search the document by typing keywords. Our algorithms can help us filter that search and rescue the document.
The transcriptions are organized in a database. The name of the software pays tribute to Luisa Cuesta, who died in November 2018 at the age of 98, without knowing what happened to her son Nevio Melo. He disappeared in Argentina during the dictatorship.
We are currently working on the first phase of the project that can allow us to identify and read all the archives. But this doesn't always work automatically. There are programs that can recognize characters or words, but most of the information in these documents was written by hand or pages are damaged and cannot be read. That is why we are inviting people to help us.
The program allows users to access pictures with blocks of words and a blank page to transcribe what people can read. Then, experts use grammar rules to transcribe the documents, and then they use statistics to find out what is the keyword that was most used for searchers.
I think this will allow us access to a lot of information that many people have been looking for. We'll also be able to interpret these documents, cross-check the information and confirm if certain information is true or not. We'll be able to learn about our own history.
This software is part of a bigger project at the Universidad de la República that will help people access more than 3 million documents from the military and the archives of the former National Agency of Intelligence. To access the project, visit www.cruzar.uy and click on the tab that says Luisa.
Indigenous leaders in Colombia have denounced President Iván Duque for not meeting with them after almost a month of protests. The National Indigenous Organization of Colombia, ONIC, said in a statement that Duque has ignored their demands and failed them by not attending the scheduled meeting in the Department of Cauca on Tuesday. The statement added that the social Minga protest will continue and that they will go on a national strike. Chileans have gathered at a main intersection in the center of the capital, Santiago, on Tuesday to protest against the state's criminalization of street vendors. Our correspondent, Tiare Valenzuela, reports.
A little less than a week ago, in the center of Santiago, an Ecuadorian man was the victim killed by police forces during a raid of street vendors. Alberto Picuasi was run over by a police car, just like the one behind me, when he tried to flee from the police, which was surrounding street vendors along a main street of the capital. Street vendors in Chile are usually immigrants who try to make a living from selling different products on the street. This evening, people have gathered here, close to where the accident happened, to protest against the state's regulations of migrants and, of course, the overall criminalization of street vendors. President Sebastián Piñera is set to introduce a new bill to halt migration in the country, making it much harder for people who enter the country as tourists to change their visa status to temporary resident.
Tiare Valenzuela from Santiago. And the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro has declared a state of emergency following flash floods. Torrential rains killed at least 3 people, sowing chaos in Brazil's second largest city. Almost all schools were closed on Tuesday, and many people had to work from home. Major roads were closed, and the mayor's office said many parts of the city were without power. The Peruvian indigenous community of Fuerabamba has opened the roads connecting to the copper mine of Las Bambas. The roads will remain open for 2 days while they wait for the visit of a government representative. The community met to discuss the agreement signed with the mining company last Saturday, which offered compensation for using their roads. The deal has stopped the protests that started more than 2 weeks ago, and for now that is going to happen. But the community is still deciding whether to accept the agreement signed by its leader, Gregorio Rojas. Journalists and members of the National Assembly in Ecuador are condemning threats and cyber attacks against them on social media. They say President Lenín Moreno and his Interior Minister have failed to take action. Our correspondent Denise Herrera explains.
Assemblyman Ronnie Aliaga has presented documents that allegedly implicated the president and his family in crimes of corruption, perjury, and money laundering. Since then, the assemblyman has received numerous death threats on social media.
It is a concern. What kind of country are we living in? The lives of politicians, journalists, and assembly members are being threatened, and the government is not doing anything about it. That's why I blame President Lenín Moreno and his national security ministers, specifically Minister María Paula Romo.
Popular broadcaster Fabricio Vela, who works at Radio Majestad in Quito, has also been the target of cyber attacks and harassment. It began after he interviewed former President Rafael Correa.
When you share opinions, you become the target of attacks. It's happened to me before, but never to this extent. It's the first time that I've experienced this type of systematic attack. These imposters even create fake social media accounts pretending to be me. They've created a false, negative impression of who I am as a person and about my career.
Although reports have been made about these threats, the government has said nothing.
Mr. Lenín Moreno,
you who were once my teacher, please find it in your heart to see that we are not doing anything wrong. The people on the radio, they are only communicating, just doing their jobs.
The scandal was first reported by the Ecuadorian digital outlet La Fuente in an article titled "The Offshore Labyrinth of the Presidential Cycle." One of its journalists, Fernando Villavicencio, spoke out against online threats and attacks against him and his colleague. He also pointed the finger of blame at Moreno government for failing to act in the matter. Denise Herrera, Telesur, Ecuador.
The controversial Unexplained Wealth Bill has been passed in the lower house of Trinidad and Tobago's parliament. After several hours of deliberations, all 34 members voted in favor of the amended bill that seeks to probe people's unexplained wealth for the recovery of criminal property. The proposed law was no exception for sitting members of government.
Why should corrupt politicians, why should people in public life who are guilty of misbehavior in public office be afraid to explain themselves in a court of law? People in this country, in talking about Mr. Big over and over again, make an allegation of politicians that they're either crooks or mooks. And they believe that all politicians are crooked. And here we have a government saying, come and inspect everybody in the government side. Come and inspect everybody in the government side. And the only people in this parliament who are saying, don't do that, don't inspect me, is the opposition.
Prime Minister Mia Mottley has called on Barbadians living abroad to redefine the concept of diaspora. Mottley made the call while participating in a town hall meeting in Canada.
That I need you to be active citizens of your country, that you may not be on a rock of 166 square miles. But we've already learned that that 166 square miles does not constitute Barbados.
We're taking one last break. Stay with us.
Acompañamos a los pueblos que resisten en cada una de sus luchas.
Somos esa ventana que se abre para visibilizarlos entre fronteras.
Thursdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. The Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir has chaired a national dialogue meeting as protesters against his government continue to be killed. 14 people were killed in the latest crackdown against protests, and Tuesday's deaths brought the total number of people killed to more than 20 since Saturday. The figure includes 5 soldiers who were killed while defending the demonstrators. Iraq's Prime Minister Adel Abdul-Mahdi has warned that the decision by the U.S. government to designate Iran's Revolutionary Guards as a terrorist group could have negative consequences on the region. Addressing journalists, Mahdi said Iraq unsuccessfully tried to talk the U.S. government out of the decision. He added that his country will maintain its good relations with Iran.
We tried to stop the American decision. We made contact with all our friends. We talked to King Abdullah. We talked with the Egyptian leadership. We talked with all our friends. We and the government officials talked with the U.S. administration. Such decisions could have negative repercussions and non-positive neither in Iraq nor in the region. However, they have proceeded with this decision, and there will be an Iranian decision. As I mentioned before, Iraq wants to estrange itself away from any conflict. In fact, Iraq will use all of its efforts to bring calm to the region, since it maintains good relations with both Tehran and Washington, and with all parties.
In this context, China's government reiterated its rejection to the politics of power or the intimidation of any country.
China holds that all parties should strictly follow the basic norms governing international relations, underpinned by the purposes and principles of the United Nations Chapter when dealing with state-to-state relations. We oppose any power politics or bullying by any country. We hope relevant countries, especially those outside the region, can do more to promote peace and stability in the Middle East and avoid taking any measure that could lead to tension escalation in the Middle East.
The newly appointed interim president of Algeria, Abdel-Kader Ben-Salah, has pledged to organize a transparent presidential election within 90 days, as laid down by the Constitution. The new leader, whose appointment was met with rejection protests, said he would consult with the political class and civil society in pursuit of a new Algeria. Ben-Salah, as Senate President, was appointed interim president on Tuesday, following Abdelaziz Bouteflika's resignation.
We are obliged to compete, citizens, the political class, state institutions. We must work to ensure the conditions, all conditions, are right for a transparent and regular presidential poll, of which we will all be the guarantors, a poll that allows our people to make their free and sovereign choice.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, Martin Fayulu's Lamuka coalition has won the delayed legislative polls in the eastern region. The polls were originally scheduled for December 30th, but were postponed due to an Ebola epidemic and violence in the region. Results released by the Electoral Commission showed that Fayulu's party won 10 seats, while incumbent President Felix Tshisekedi's party won just 1. The FIFA Women's World Cup trophy is visiting Cameroon. The trophy arrived in the country respecting the FIFA tradition that each qualified country should receive it for its display. People filled a stadium to host the event in capital Yaoundé, led by international Cameroonian football player Gaëlle Nganamuit. She says this is a great chance to promote women's football.
It's a great pleasure, especially here in Cameroon, and with what we see here that FIFA has organized, it's a great pleasure. It proves once again that the emphasis is on the development of women's football, and we hope that by June and the years to come, this trophy will remain in Cameroon.
With that, we end our news brief, but you know you can read more on these stories by going to our website, telesurenglish.net. And you can join us also on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Carla Gonzalez. Thank you for watching.